So that's what that feels like. What is up, guys? It's Sky, and welcome to another episode of Flight School. And if you're new here, Flight School is a series that I started pretty much since the launch of BF1. There's a playlist on my channel with all the past episodes. It's good to browse through them because all the episodes kind of build on each other. I pretty much assume that you've watched all the episodes. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. Today's episode is kind of a culmination. I was fortunate enough to fly against this guy 007 on crack last week. He did pretty good, so I'm excited to show you how a high-level dogfight works in BF1. If you're new here, I'm going to talk about something that I've talked about pretty much since the beginning, and that's elevation. Airspeed and elevation are basically your oxygen in a dogfight. A lot of people don't know this. In the gameplay, my opponent does pretty much the worst thing you can possibly do in a dogfight. Jam on the brakes right next to the ground. This is actually a really common tactic. People wouldn't do things like this if it didn't work for them. But it goes against one of the pivotal tenets of dogfighting, and that's having an elevation advantage. Basically, any move that's going to dramatically reverse a dogfight from negative to neutral to positive is going to be done diving from a high elevation. One of the biggest push and pull elements of a dogfight is the exchange of energy, of the potential energy from elevation to the kinetic energy of airspeed. I've seen far too many pilots slam on the brakes to try to quote-unquote turn tighter. And slowing down to turn tighter has its place in maneuvering. But you have to consider the disadvantage of bleeding off airspeed, because one of the pivotal points of dogfighting is exchanging your kinetic energy, your airspeed, for elevation. As most of you may already be aware, trying to climb in BF1 slows you down almost to a stall. Today's video is going to show you how to manage the exchange of kinetic and potential energy in a high-level dogfight. It's probably the episode that a lot of you have already been waiting for. I know a lot of my viewers are pretty good pilots in their own rights. I get a lot of those comments where you're pretty good against most pilots, but one in every 100 or so games there's that one guy that you just can't seem to shake. Just a refresher, in a dogfight you're concerned with managing not only angles, but also airspeed and elevation. I'll start by reviewing what a brake is. I covered this in the last episode of Flight School. A brake is simply, if you have a tail, you turn toward them. One of the most effective ways to do this is to dive from a high elevation and pitch, yaw, and roll toward your attacker and constantly turn into them. I covered this in the last episode, so I'll link it in the description. From this point on, I'm pretty much going to assume you know what it is. Currently in the gameplay, I'm kind of flying in circles. My squad mate's actually currently engaging my opponent. Generally, I'll choose to help out, but I've deemed my opponent to be a fairly high-level pilot. I don't want him to think that I've cheesed him by sneaking up on him. So I'm just going to make sure that there's nobody on the A turret and let him finish off my teammate so we can have a one-on-one dogfight in the middle of the map. I actually see him on my mini-map, so I make this move to quickly increase my elevation. A barrel roll will not only initially throw off his aim, but the downward movement from the barrel roll produces airspeed, which you can use to quickly climb to a higher elevation. He actually doesn't engage me right away. I'm guessing he dove down close to the ground and stuck away to try to repair. So I'm just going to conserve my elevation and just keep turning to try to find him. Even if he were to get behind me, I feel very comfortable at this elevation that I can quickly reverse the dogfight to a neutral position. Remember that elevation is one of your lifebloods in a dogfight. I feel much more comfortable in the middle of the map at the flight ceiling than I would anywhere else near the ground. He engages me here and we're off to the races. At this elevation, I can neutralize the dogfight immediately with a quick barrel roll to throw off his aim and then dive right into his face. And then I'm going to immediately use the throttle to climb to a high elevation. My opponent has a choice of either following my maneuver or conserving his elevation and trying to reacquire me. He does neither and breaks one of the 10 commandments of dogfighting. Thou shalt not brake to try to turn tighter. In a negative to neutral dogfight, you should stay off the brakes, especially this close to the ground. Here I'm keeping my speed and he continues to stay on the brakes to try to turn tighter. Takes a ton of damage here, and you'll see how keeping my speed allows me to produce tremendous elevation. Use my throttle to help me pull up, climb. If I get you in this position, you have very little chance of reversing the dogfight. While the dogfight is neutral, I have a pretty massive advantage in elevation. And at this point, I'm left with a choice. We're going to pass each other in a head-on, and I can play it safe and just conserve my elevation and turn toward him, or I can make a riskier move, dive, and try to cut him to reverse the dogfight quickly. I actually choose the former. I just press my advantage, use the throttle to gain more elevation, and turn toward him. To the uninitiated, this looks like a massive advantage. I'm behind him. and I have my sights trained squarely on him. But at this elevation, a pretty good pilot will be able to neutralize this dogfight immediately, and that's what's going to happen. For my viewers that saw my last episode of Flight School, this is the move that I talked about, the break. You'll see my opponent execute it perfectly here, diving from a high elevation, turning right into me. It's a very effective maneuver, and he either knows this or learned through lots of trial and error. As my opponent executes this move, I have a choice. Play it safe, conserve my elevation, lose him and try to reacquire him, which is much riskier because after executing the move, he'll most likely be behind me. Or I could take the much more difficult but safe approach and just follow him. I choose the latter, but you'll see that following this move is easier said than done. Not impossible, but it does require a lot of skill. You see how this move forces me to drop my elevation to follow him. Now my opponent's executed 3/4 of a turn and effectively set the dogfight to neutral. He needs to immediately switch toward me and start gaining elevation, because that's exactly what I'm going to do, and you'll see that he's a step behind. I turn to face him and start gaining elevation, and he's still close to the ground. If you're having trouble getting this move to work, then maybe that's what you should work on. To the uninitiated, this doesn't look like that much of an advantage, but it's a huge advantage, and I'll keep it pretty much throughout the remainder of the dogfight. On the second pass, I gain even more elevation. Remember that I free fall when I dive and use the throttle when I climb. Another really important thing to note is that I don't execute any moves to be fancy or to try to juke out my opponent. Every single move is focused and directly considers angles, elevation, and airspeed. And on this last pass, he finally starts to match my elevation, but it's already too late because I built up enough elevation to make an aggressive move toward the ground and quickly reverse the dogfight. I actually end up tracking him in my headphones here, and I know he's directly beneath me. I end up getting a cue from the minimap to exactly where his position is. This is still a weakness of mine. I often get cued from the minimap confused, but I don't this time. Now I know there's another fighter plane from the other team in the air somewhere, but this one seems like he's in an awful hurry to get away, and my intuition proves to be correct. Running exotic fighter plane skins can actually be to your detriment sometimes, because it makes it much easier to distinguish you from the pack. Sometimes it helps to kind of blend in with everyone else. Although that Black Falcon skin is kind of nice. Well, I hope you guys learned a lot. The thing about dogfighting is that every situation is unique. This is just one situation, and there's a lot to learn from it. But the things you learn from this particular engagement may or may not help you in the next one. You just have to think angles, angles, angles. Know ways to use your elevation to reverse a dogfight, and then know how to use your airspeed to create elevation. Hopefully I can post some more good examples from my fighter plane mastery series. Thanks guys, that's it for this one. I'll catch you later.
Hurry up!
We have lost objective Charlie.
Sighted! An enemy plane!
We have taken objective Butter.
Enemy plane up there!
We have taken objective Charlie.
Plane! You see it? Look up! Plane!
Halfway there, we have the upper hand.
Enemy plane!